Welcome, seekers and visionaries, to Oracle Mountain Chats. Here on this sacred virtual peak, we gather, a space for oracles to share their wisdom, their visions, and their craft. It all began with a calling I could not ignore. One day, within a vision, I held this conch shell in my hands, and as I blew its resonant note into the world, I felt its vibration ripple across unseen realms. It was a summons, a signal to fellow oracles scattered near and far. I saw that we were on a mountain, vast and towering, reaching into the heavens. At its base, the world buzzed with life, people moving, creating, searching. Yet at the summit, there was stillness, clarity, and a circle of light. There, oracles stood, their gaze focused both outward and inward. They spoke of the energies they felt, the shifts they saw, and the whispers of the unseen. They weren't above the world, they were its witnesses and its guides. From this vision, OracleFest was born, a celebration of connection, insight, and the timeless wisdom that flows through us all. Here we gather as oracles to share the visions Spirit whispers to us, to speak of the energy currents flowing through nature and humanity, and to help guide those who seek answers in a world that often feels lost. So grab a seat, breathe in the mountain air, and join us as we begin today's chat. Whether it's an energy reading, a conversation about our craft, our path, or simply sharing a perspective on the world below, this is where we wait for more oracles to join us on the mountain. What wisdom will the mountain bring us today? Let's find out together. Step into this sacred space where the wisdom of the ages converges with the questions of the present. All right, and here we are back again on Oracle Mountain, this time with Deanna Divine. I'm really excited to bring this topic forward, whatever topics we end up bringing forward today, because Deanna has written, she's the author of a book called Mastering Quantum Creation. That's the name of it, right? Okay, so Mastering Quantum Creation, what an exciting title for us to kind of get curious about. We have this Abundance Podium event coming up on August 2nd. So if you haven't checked that out yet, you can go to oraclefest.com and go check that out, or any of the other upcoming podium events, depending on when you hear this. But I'm blessed to bring Deanna into the podium because quantum is like such a big topic and I would say buzzword in today's spiritual, especially the online communities. And yet I think it's also quite vague for a lot of people. They're not quite sure how to wrap their head around it. So we're going to try to wrap our head around it a little bit today with Deanna, and then we can
We'll do our
learn
best.
more. Yeah, we'll do some today,
Yeah.
exactly. And then and then we'll see her at the Abundance Podium on August 2nd for a deeper activation and insights, along with a whole bunch of other luminaries. So Deanna, welcome to Oracle Mountain.
Thank you so much for having me, Kate.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So I'm curious because I know you do a lot of educating and coaching, helping people, and as well working with the quantum field or quantum energies. How would you describe quantum creation for someone? That's a very big question to start off with, but I figure you're the
Yeah,
person to ask.
for sure. And maybe we'll break and start with what is quantum.
Perfect.
And as you said, like it's such a buzzword. I would say even sexy word because everyone is using it. And what's beautiful about it also because now there's all this scientific research that continue to come out and proving many of us, those who've been in metaphysical world for years and feeling the energy and now getting to prove it through charts, through experiments that are being done by the scientific community. So I think we're starting to merge these two, and that's why maybe it's interchangeably now being used. And there's new fields like quantum biology that emerge in, and many quantum devices and technology emerging. So my husband and I actually working on a lot of quantum tech and working with frequency and very pioneering technology, and people are still trying to understand. And it's all about alignment. So what is quantum? Quantum is that invisible force. It's that energy that is all around us, but our spectrum of the eyes can only see so much. And so There's all these energy that's swirling. They're going through our bodies, the frequencies that we get in bombarded with as well, whether it's the radio waves, the EMFs, the 5G towers. There's so much going on, and that is all quantum because it comes down to the subatomic level, atomic level. It's these electrons in the field, right? All of that is quantum because quantum means it's multidimensional. It's beyond just linearity of time, of past, present, future. It's all in everything. So now there's a lot of talk, for instance, about quantum computing. And what's the difference between our standard computers versus these quantum computers they're creating? So before you were about to solve a puzzle, the computer would run a logical, some sort of progression. It would go through the puzzle, and then if it can figure it out, it will do it this way. But if it got stuck, it would run another algorithm, another algorithms, and would continue doing these loops, right? Very linearly standard way. The quantum computer is using what's called concept in quantum mechanics superposition, meaning at the same time, simultaneously, the same atom, the same particle can be in many, many spaces at once. And in that means if I have a puzzle, then I can run an algorithm and it's simultaneously looking through all parallel realities, parallel dimensions, all possible outcomes. Kind of like I don't know if you've ever watched Doctor Strange. He's just like running all possible simulations at once to see which one actually will be the timeline that resolves that situation. But that's incredible. So something that a regular computer, I don't know, on Google, I think I was reading somewhere, would take, I don't know, trillions of years to resolve. Now, quantum computer can do in only a month. So, and what's interesting, these quantum computers, they are put in very cold environments, actually somewhere in the like I was reading like in Iceland, they put, like submerging them in ice sometimes, so really like underground. So it's really quiet and there's no noise. So then the computer is not disturbed by outside environment and just being able to be in the quantum field of information. And we are quantum computers. We are quantum master creators. We are the technology. The computer is just simulating what we already are. So if we quiet our mind and like when we go into meditation, for instance, right, and we tune out all the noise and we go into that place of stillness, that place of unity, with the oneness of it all, that omniscience, that omnipresence, we are tapping into the quantum field of all the information. It's all in and nothing at the same time. It's the place of infinite possibilities. And if we get to play in that type of sandbox, that's incredible. Then we can understand that, wow, like I can actually shift timelines. I can, move things around because they're so malleable, or attract to myself and move towards something that is already in the field, but I'm just calling that in. So, some people talk about law of attraction and the Book of Secrets, all those things that out there right now, and around manifestation, right? But the word that I like more is the word that I use for my title is mastering quantum creation, remembering that we are creator beings. We created this reality. We created this galaxy. We created the nebulas, the star systems, the experiences, Earth as a school. The reason a lot of us as star seeds come into Earth and having experiences and has signed up to this project, as I call it, Earth, is been to experience this particular reality in this density. And yes, sometimes it feels very heavy and very dense, and why things the way they are. And we question, the matrix, the 9 to 5 jobs, what government is doing, all the things that are happening that difficult. It can be very difficult for many souls here on earth. And I know many kind of just want to get out of here. But I think the key, and that's the premise of my book, is to learn the game of consciousness, to accept and acknowledge the responsibility that we created this reality through our thoughts, through our feelings, through every moment of breathing, and it's a conscious game. But you could be, in a game of consciousness where you're just a player, but you're not paying attention. So things are happening and you just robotically repeating them. The game of consciousness I'm talking about is being conscious creators, realizing that we are masters of this reality. And what does it mean to be a master? That means to have all the tools, all the really embodiment and integration of our own gifts. And then from that place, from very empowered place and embodied place, start realizing that, oh, these pieces of the puzzle, I can actually shift around. And I'm very conscious in every moment. I'm realizing what is happening. I'm putting my intentions in. We can talk more about it, like all the ingredients of how to manipulate this reality. Then it becomes a very different experience. So yeah, so quantum creator is someone who is in the full awareness. Quantum creator is someone who's like, I can go into the quantum field, I can be part of the field, I am the field, and now let's see what happens with it, right? And it can be as small as, you know, starting your day, and you're like, how do I want my day to look like? So you chart down this most beautiful day, like on a blank piece of paper, it can be a doodle. And then you put in the intention you create in a day, and then allowing that day to unfold for you. And expecting the miracles, expecting the frequency, the highest vibration of your creation. And so when you approach your day from that place versus like starting like, oh, I have to, I have to take this train to the city. Oh my God, what a, grueling day I'm gonna have. Like you already set in your expectation in a certain vibrational frequency that will unfold probably in a way that is not in the highest vibration. It might be more challenging because you've already created that day for you that is of that vibration versus starting with the most beautiful expectations. And that's the kind of game or example of a game that we can play with ourselves.
Love that. Love that. There's kind of a lot of different things I think we could I could ask you about here. I'm curious, um, your experience of when people come to approach the idea of quantum versus, say, uh, like the law of attraction or the idea of manifestation on its own without this maybe expanded version of what is possible,
Mhm,
the openness to all possibilities as you were describing.
mhm,
um,
mhm,
what kind of hangups do you see with like someone trying to transition from, I've been, because the reason I'm saying it, for some people, law of attraction manifestation is like the thing that it really allows them to click, and it works really well. I would say there's also a larger portion of people who are limited by this being their singular focus. And perhaps not trusting in all the other types of divine laws and ways that things actually do work from a much more like wide perspective. Do you see that as well? And do you see any type of typical patterns or hangups from moving from the idea of like manifesting here and asking for what you like want versus opening to the quantum field?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that I'm observing is people are chasing.
Mm.
They seek in. It happens a lot just in spiritual New Age community as a whole, like this idea of seeking enlightenment, for instance, right? And doing so many things. I have so many clients coming my way, and they're like, "Diana, I'm doing this and this and this and this and that. Should I
Mm-hmm.
also take your course? Should I? Like, give me orientation, give me direction." And I'm saying, well, you have to kind of step back and ask the bigger question is like, why are you doing this? What is your soul is really excited about? What are you just doing it for the sake of like picking up just another course, and are you really completing the course? And maybe that's fine. I have so many certificates myself, over the course of 25 years being on this journey, I've experienced a lot. So, and it's nice sometimes to draw from, my suitcase of experiences and wisdom and skills that I've learned along the way. Um, but sometimes people get lost in this overwhelming, seeking. And I encourage more to come to this place of I'm not seeking, I'm just open to the field, to and I'm allowing, so the frequency of allowance, and many of us, especially women, we are usually in this very divine masculine, well, masculine energy, meaning like we go getters, we just doing, we pack our schedule. We don't really give ourselves the time just to be, and just to be in this more feminine way, because the feminine way is the receiving way, the allowing way, where, I'm thinking of any beautiful goddesses in a history. Do you see them, I don't know, on the throne, someone in this beautiful flower garden with some crystalline, waterfalls in the background. She's really slow. She's moving beautifully and gracefully. She's not rushing. She's taking the time to smell the flower, to see the bee. She's really slowing down. So that turtle medicine, as I call it, of slowing down, sometimes comes in people's life as a sickness or an accident or something that all of a sudden shakes them and wakes them, and they are forced to sit down. I mean, during the pandemic, many woke up because they were forced to be at home and for the first time, not look for external validation, but internal. So similarly, I feel in this world of creation, manifestation, so it's not that's something that happens outside of yourself. It's something that happens from within first. And so to find that time of stillness and not chase, but just be in this place of receptivity, and yet definitely putting intentions into the field is very important. So it's important to know, kind of at least have a generical sense of what you're calling in. And because again, in the quantum field of information, everything is available. So, yes, in the law of attraction, it assumes you attracting it. So, in some ways, it's correct because we are like in the radio station. Remember back in the old times when we had those cars and we had to like switch between the stations? So, we have to move our vibrational station to the station where that particular manifestation or that particular thing is coming to you. You have to be a vibrational match. So, for instance, like sometimes there's like static. Remember the static in between, and it wasn't real matching. But then you got to the radio station, the music is playing, and now you're like getting excited. So there's also emotional mastery we have to get into. We can with our emotions, and as you know, emotions have different frequencies. If we go to joy, if we go to excitement, and we are in the higher, David Hawkins has the map of consciousness, different frequencies. If we in that frequency bandwidth, then it's easier for us to switch into that other radio station, and then, of course, attract in some ways that vibration towards ourselves. So in that way, as I understand law of attraction, that piece of attracting that towards ourselves, that is correct. Because again, as master creators, we are responsible for understanding where we are, how to shift our vibrational frequency, our emotions, and we can shift very quickly. Like, just because you woke up and you're feeling groggy, you can choose in that moment, like, oh, I don't want to be groggy anymore. Like, let me, get into the routine, start doing Qigong or some practice that will like move you into different vibrational frequencies, start breath work, whatever it takes to shift you from that funk. And then the other really important piece is coherence, which means the field around us has to also be in a certain vibrational state as well to allow for this particular creation to happen. And I often give the metaphor of hunting because my name is Diana, so it's the goddess of hunting. I've never, I'm not a good hunter. I haven't really hunted out there, but I'm imagining when you're hunting for an animal, like the goddess would go out at nighttime and she has her bow and arrow. So the arrow, and especially like the tip of the arrow is where we put our intention, and it has to be concentrated. So it has to be with because there's so many things we can pull towards ourselves in the quantum field, and but we have to be specific. And sometimes maybe not too specific, but at least some qualities of what exactly we want to call in. And then that's the arrow that we shoot into the field of information. But when we do that, just like in hunting, if there's too much noise and we kind of wobbly, we're all over the place, we're not really grounded in our feet, our heart and our brain. What is coherence? When the heart and the brain synchronize, the heart is beating steadily, right? And then the heart starts dropping a little bit in the brain waves. The hunters, they're quiet, right? They're waiting for their prey. They just like really stable. They don't move as much. They finding that coherence. And usually that's the place we have to shoot our arrow into the universe, and also have full faith and trust and surrender. So surrender is that full openness of the field, meaning like universe, okay, I've done my part. Now it's up to you, quantum field, to co-create with me. So it's a co-creation dance. And this arrow is going to come back to me because I set my intention. I might not fully know how, or I might say set some parameters of when, but I need to, by releasing the how, and releasing some of these questions, you allow in the quantum field to co-create with you. Because if you controlling the this ingredients of the how, then you're not letting it really fully unfold as it needs to. Um, and from my experience, the quantum field wants sometimes to do it its way, right? It moves things around. So that particular thing might be you vibrationally matched to it. It's there, but then if you're trying to hold to it too much, then it might not create itself, or manifest itself because you've not let the spaciousness in the field for it to come into form. Essentially, what is creation? I feel like I need to explain that too. So everything is energy, right? But energy starts from the mind of God, so to speak, from a thought. And then from that, from just the idea itself, the idea has to come into some sort of container. It has to have a form. It has to be like sacred geometry, just like our body, right? We all have geometry. We have some sort of container for our energy field. And then from there, as it starts having a form, it starts coming from this fluid state, I would say, dream state, like our dreams, right? They're happening too, but they're just not in the form. They're in a very fluid way. But then they start coming into physical reality, into consensus reality, and actually showing up as actual physical manifestation. Sometimes that takes time. Sometimes it can, like you said, instantaneous, if it's the right match and all the ingredients just clicked in. But sometimes we need to allow time for it to matriculate. So I feel that those who are really good manifestors or creators, they just always in the flow with all that is. Like they're not in control of, they like river, right? They just like lay down and they allow the flow to take them where it needs to take. And they trust fully and have full faith that it will lead them, the right person will show up in their life and would, connect them to someone they need to be connected to. And things just unfold in this beautiful, graceful way. But those who resist, and I think resistance is what does not allow the creation to happen, manifestation to happen. The resistance, the blockage, the control is just like the way the field reads it is like, no, no, no. Like I'm not ready for it. Like the more we put resistance in the field, the more we're saying, no, I'm not ready for this. I'm not. And then the field is like, okay, no, that's not for her right now. She's not ready. Um, so just the awareness of how we create and how conscious we create in every moment. That's what I was saying. Like we create it all the time. It's sometimes it's just bigger creation that we seek in, but every day I feel is a moment of creation. And within the day, there's so many of these magical moments. And we can go to the store and smile to the cashier and ask them about their day. And all of a sudden, this person who was maybe not in the best mood is like changing because we are interacting with them and we created a moment for them and we actually also doing some sort of healing for them. So for me, that's creation as well. Just like, I don't know, the birds are flying and chirping and the wind blowing through the trees, everything is creation in motion. And it's just, it's beautiful, it's graceful. And we just need to remember that we are these very powerful beings. I think that's really like my book is called Mastering Quantum Creation, Awaken the Phoenix Within, Manifest Your Reality, and Reclaim Your Cosmic Power. The power is really in reclamation of self. It's really stepping into like, yes, yes, like holy yes, with capital, capital HOLY, because it's really feeling the yes in every moment is so important.
And, for people who are perhaps even very new to any of this work, but something is resonating with them about how you're speaking, um, like in a really basic way, a lot of people stand in their own way because they're looking for that seeing is believing. And you mentioned that at the beginning, talking about the idea of quantum. And so, if the idea of quantum is that it's much more than binary one and zero, and if computers run on binary system, but then
Hmm.
quantum as 2, 3, 4, somehow that kind of creates a
Yeah.
whole other reality. I went on a date with a quantum mathematician once, and it was a very interesting conversation because of the directions we were both coming from, as you would well imagine. And you probably see doing your work with quantum technologies, right? And anyone who is fascinated in energy and technology and invention and the way that things go, really the idea of quantum ought to be really fascinating to you, because I would also say it's like a place where great inventors and creators and maybe wisdom keepers from throughout time have naturally been in that state when they are tuned into some of these groundbreaking ideas that have really helped humanity. So, like, the need and the reason for doing this is not some fancy thing just for you, but it's also because, like, we feel more ourselves when we are in that empowered state. All the work that you are doing from this place is because it's your highest and best. Usually, that is offering something super beautiful to humanity and to the world at large in some kind of way. And so the if the direction that you're being called to is to explore the idea of quantum and quantum creation, then yeah, perhaps go and read this book of Deanna's, because it will likely continue to resonate with you, right? So if this language is meeting you, that's the type of thing that we ought to be tuned into when it comes to the external, the physical reality. But when it comes to seeing manifestations and ideas, inspirations, visions, also, coming through visions, even if they weren't sight based, I would say feeling visions, or maybe just ideas from like a knowing place. It seems like a lot of people get confused because when it doesn't exist in the timeline that they thought, or when it doesn't exist in the form or the rate at which they thought, it's like they've disappointed themselves, and then they're suddenly doing wrong by like the universe and spirit at large. And so, like, it's always so interesting to me, because I couldn't think that I can control a thunderstorm, for example. And yet the power of nature is still going to be there, and it's still going to show me this thunderstorm. So I think a lot of the things, like, we're meant to do, if we open up to it, really, like, it will happen because there's this relationship, and not because I failed or didn't, right? And usually if I feel like I've done wrong, it's actually that, like, they were showing me so much more. Is, I speak of non-ordinary space. They're usually saying to me, hey, we see your intention. We have another 3 lined up for you. In order to do those 3, you said, oh, they rearrange. Oh, the quantum field kind of takes things, moves it into, like a computer would, it's like most efficient kind of timeline.
Reshuffles it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it shuffles it.
exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. And so
Reshuffles it.
that is kind of the surrender that you're talking about. It's like
The
trust.
flexibility,
Yeah,
trust in the
we don't know
reshuffling to
how.
happen. Yeah.
Why do we need to
Mhm.
know how? Why don't we trust that
Yeah.
it is here, or it is coming? And yeah, life gets a lot easier feeling and more joyful. So naturally, you end up being in that vibration more and more. So that's why this type of language and this type of framework mentally is helping so many people. So if anyone has listened to this because they're like, oh, I'm a bit confused by quantum healing and what that even could look like, could entail, um, listen to Deanna actually said a lot of different ways in a very simple fashion, like breath work, like simply tuning in, right? Like simply tuning in. Once you've opened that awareness, it's like a place to visit. That's how I see a lot of these, in my mind, non-ordinary spaces, right? The field, the quantum field would be a dimension of awareness to go visit, to spend time with, and to remember
Yeah.
that you're here. Do you sense it that way? Does it feel like a space to you in some sense?
Absolutely. It feels almost like, think of like different realms, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way I see them is like different houses, and within different
Mm-hmm.
houses, you have different rooms.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love going to Burning Man Fest. I got married in Burning Man Festival,
Oh.
and what I loved about it because there's so many camps and so many like art projects, and it's in the middle of the desert, right? So, and then there's just so many experiences, and with each experience, it's like different frequencies, like and so it's like this house with a lot of different flavors, right, of things. So that's exactly how it is, and then I think when you open yourself up to like, okay, well, I experimented here. Now I want to go to another realm. These realms are not necessarily physical. They are more like etheric in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
But we can also, I mean, the powers that we have, I mean, in my book, I talk about a lot of things from like expressing ourselves in these multidimensional languages to the energy fields, but also remembering, like you said, quantum healing. The quantum healing that I do with people and I take them into their past lives is all these other lives that we had, and some of them on Earth, some of them off Earth. And so we've been um, conditioned here on Earth to forget some of that stuff. But as you were talking about thunder, it was so interesting, Kate. I remembered for some reason that back in the ancient schools in Egypt, we we were actually practicing how to become thunder, how to bring thunder in. And the way we would do that was to become like you said, the relationship, like build that relationship, build that connected to the thunder and become the thunder. So the thunder is not outside of ourselves, but we are it. And as we merged with it, all of a sudden, like, thunderstorm would come in and thunder
Yeah.
and we would bring a storm in. But these were mystery schools taught us or trained us how to get into these states where we learn how to be in the quantum field and shape shift, like you were saying, being adaptable and changing and shape shift, because we can actually shape shift into these different states. And be the elements, right? The water, the fire, all of it. So I love working with different elements. Like sometimes even like, it was a full moon right now. So, having a fire in the backyard and then just sitting and like staring at the fire. And at some point, like you kind of like, the more you look and stare at the fire, you feel like you become in the fire. So like just having these moments of stillness are so important. And then, being aware of the elements that are around us as well. Like that's the awareness factor. And I think as you start becoming aware, you start building perspectives as well. So it's like we can look at one thing from one side, but maybe even, in our relationships, going back to relationships, sometimes people are very polarized, meaning they like everything is in black and white, but it's not. There's so many shades to every story, to every situation, even what's happening in the world. I think the problem has been because it's been very much about, pushing and pulling back and forwards. Who has more power? Who is correct? Am I right or am I happy? Versus coming to this maybe more of a gray zone of neutrality, of compassion, of can I mirror this other person and become them for a second and shapeshift into that and then start feeling their pain, their story, and what is really happening for them. And through that, we yeah, we start understanding that we are not separate. We are like our neighbor. We are the bird. We are the river. We are polluting the water. We are the water stream. Like, as you start getting this very multidimensional quantum perspective of who you are, it's just gives you a completely different story of your reality, and how you perceive reality and how you want to take care of it as well. And the choices you make and decisions you make and relationships you have, they change as well. And we often see how, like, on the journey of awakening, like, the old friends that were maybe more toxic are no longer in our life because they don't serve us anymore, because we start all of a sudden seeing things maybe we didn't want to see, right? So that a bit, pausing and noticing the patterns, because everything is a pattern, like what I was talking about. It's first it's energy, and then it starts coming into form. Some of these patterns are positive, but sometimes we also along the way been picking up these patterns and scripts. I call them background scripts that are not always ours. Sometimes they're ancestral. Sometimes they are patterns that kind of been imposed in some ways and conditioned us through the society. So what we're learning is to unpeel the onion, to unpeel and get to the core of who we are. And that's the phoenix. Like, the phoenix is the one that can burn through these layers and emerge from it, like from the core of realization of self, and being okay with being okay to let go of things that don't serve, and when I say go into the core, really accepting and loving all the aspects of yourself and integrating them. There's the light, there's the shadow. Many of us had different lifetimes. Sometimes we played in the light, sometimes we were very dark beings as well, and maybe we did some bad things. Those are also part of this experience. So a quantum creator actually chose both sides. Like, because the more you have, again, experiences, the more you have perspectives, the more you learn on a soul level. So some of us, need to integrate maybe some of these experiences from different lives. And that's what I'm seeing. A lot of my clients come to me, and some things come up that they have to process and realize where these traumas from. So as we clear the traumas, as we release the scripts that are not ours and these patterns, we get to choose a new pattern. We're like, okay, these patterns were not working for me, but this is new creation, new reality that is, like you said, for the highest time, like for my highest good, for the highest good of everyone as well. And that's maybe the pattern I want to now uh, start playing with, and see how, it's like empty canvas now. So, like, I get to create it. And that's what you do in Kate. And I love that. Those of us who do in summits and podcasts and writing books, like, there's so much creation that gets involved, and there's a lot of patterns we have to put in place. And sometimes it takes time, right? We don't always have all the pieces together, and then the pieces start coming, and we start seeing this new pattern that's being weaved, and it's just like this beautiful flower. Like, I, I was telling you, I created this image right before we came on this call together, and I was just like, I don't know, playing with geometry. I was like, so we constantly can change and shift, and being flexible in our beingness is so important these days, because things are changing all the time. The only constant is change. And that's how really quantum field operates. Like you were saying, it's constantly rearranging the particles, because through rearrangement of particles, new patterns get created. And sometimes, um, so when I was talking about the quantum field and the superposition, I just want to go back to that concept of superposition. It's almost like, think of it, the metaphor I like to bring to it is, we all, let's say, going to watch ballet. I don't know. And I don't know if anyone has watched ballet, but you have these beautiful ballerinas spinning on the stage. So imagine you have at least six ballerinas, and they beautifully spinning on stage. They all the same, so to speak, particle, but they have different states, because each of them is spinning differently, some faster, some slower. But there's one ballerina, for instance, that we all like, and we all paying attention in the audience just to her, and we want her to be our winner ballerina. So all of us just, giving our intention and attention just to that ballerina. Eventually, those other ballerinas are kind of going to stop spinning, and this one it's called in quantum physics standing wave. The frequencies, the standing wave starts rising and rising, and she wins, and all other ballerinas that collapses, or those other timelines, those other states of particles, they collapse, and this one is the one that wins. So that's what happens all the time. We have potentialities in the field, but the one that we feed in the most without intention and intention is the one that moves forward. So when it comes to the collective of where we are today, so all of us, of course, want this beautiful new earth reality where we all, living in these beautiful communities. We have crystals around us, and support, and our children have these schools that support the education, not the current school system. um, and we all working towards that, but the more of us have the same vision, the same dream, the same goal, we created that together. So those of us who listening to this, by getting together in the groups, by being part of OracleFest and other platforms similar to this, we are constantly giving our intention to this type of ballerina and that timeline, and that is what becomes our reality, and it will show up. I've seen it happening again and again where it does manifest quickly. And, sometimes it does take time because it has to be built, but sometimes it does manifest together. Like, summits do happen, creations are happening, it's just maybe not always seen tangibly right away. But it is important to have faith and trust and constantly, like every day, give it intention. You want to buy this beautiful, I don't know, house, draw the house, look at the picture every day, feel like you're in that house already, sipping coffee on your porch and staring at your beautiful backyard. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm working on on the house. That's what I'm speaking from my own experience because
I love
that's
that.
next
I'm
for
doing
me.
the same thing.
and uh
Great.
and yeah, and I'm putting some timelines around it because for me it's not today, but I know it's happening next year. Like I already know my timeline. So, and I'm kind of just like with the book. This book wasn't in my hands. It was in my mind about a year and a half ago. And then I started first for about I don't know, for a while it was in my mind until I actually was ready to sit down and start writing it. So, and so it took time to build. Building takes time, some of these things, but they do eventually like tangibly happen. And the experience of holding it and being like, whoa, it's here. It's just like unbelievable sometimes. And sometimes like, no, I actually worked for it. So in some ways we have to put our piece in. We have to, the creation has to be put into patterns, and we part of that creation. So hope that clarified a little bit too.
Yes, yeah, I love that. And a lot of these conversations, our first ones on Oracle Mountain here, it's kind of like just stirring the water and allowing us to say, okay, something's going to like rise up from out of this pool that we're sort of all adding to. So thank you for dropping all of your
Yeah, we gotta
insights and wisdom. Yeah,
water the
I
pool.
know. I know.
Water the seeds in the pool, right?
Exactly.
Because
Yeah, there's got to be
yeah,
like lotuses in the pool or something. There's got to be something beautiful.
yes, totally. I see
Hmm,
lotuses.
great.
Yes, yeah.
So such a joy chatting to you, Deanna, and I'm really looking forward to also you joining us for the Abundance Podium and for the larger Oracle Fest in January. That's our bigger, all of us meeting again. And so, yeah, just so thrilled to have you with us. And we'll post
Thank you, Pete.
descriptions and links and things below so you can go check out her book. Anything else you wanted to say before we end off today?
Yeah, I think I would just summarize with what I was mentioning, but just invite everyone to take a deep breath right now into the heart space and exhaling out. Another deep breath, and just anything that's in you feel right now that's not serving you, that is creating resistance and feeling stuck, just release it through exhale. Always remember that you are infinite creator. Remember, you have all the power, all the gifts. You are the God and goddesses walking on earth. And thank you for being here, created with us.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.